Welcome to the Pre to Post Transplant Podcast, a podcast that brings personal stories from transplant survivors, their families, friends, and loved ones. This is where you will hear challenges and triumphs of everyone involved in this journey. Our guests will offer wisdom, advice, and inspiration on everything you want to know about transplant. My name is Jenny McFarland. I am a transplant survivor, and this is a podcast I wish I had before and immediately following my transplant. Thank you for listening. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is Jenny McFarland, your host, and happy Valentine's Day if you're listening to this in real time. And in addition to Valentine's Day, it is National Donor Day. So if you are listening to this and you haven't registered to be an organ donor, today's a great day. It's the most perfect day to register to be an organ donor. You could be someone's hero. And this episode is all about that. It's all about living donation. And you're going to hear an update from one of my past guests about her experience with donating her kidney. It's been a minute since we've had an episode, so I want to just give you an update on the Community Connect Day. We had it a few days ago here in Houston, and it was amazing. It was more than I expected. We had a great turnout. We had great speakers, great information, great connecting with peers. It was so much fun, and I can't wait until we do the next one. And in the meantime, the foundation is going to start a new virtual transplant timeout. So stay tuned for more information about that on the website. It is a virtual event, so anybody in the country can attend. So take a look at the website, keep an eye out for that information. Now, today's episode, I have an amazing guest. Tabitha was on the podcast 3 years ago today on National Donor Day to talk about being a living donor. And I'm not going to give too many details away, but she is an incredible person. She's become a very close friend of mine, and I adore her. And I love her story. I love living donors because I think they're amazing people. And what a gift it is to be an organ donor while you're still alive. If I could do that, I would, because it would make me feel so amazing that I got to save somebody's life. So if you are thinking about being a living donor, listen to this episode and go back and listen to her original episode 3 years ago. It has more details of her story, and it will inspire you to maybe think harder about being a living donor. So if you can share your spare, then sign up to be a living donor. And if you aren't comfortable with that or you can't do that, then at least check off that box on your driver's license to be an organ donor when you pass away. And better yet, you can register with your state to be an organ donor. It takes less than 2 minutes to do that. So log on and register and send me a message that you registered, and I will give you a shout out on my next episode. So let's jump into this update episode with my friend and hero, Tabitha Selvester. Hi, Tabitha. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Jenny.
I'm so glad that you're here. You were here, I think it was 3 years ago, and we're going to air this on the same day that it came out, which is National Donor Day. So, wow, it's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years.
So the first time I ever talked to you was the first time I ever talked to you. So, I mean, the last time we had our podcast was the first time I ever talked to you. So I was a little bit nervous back then, but I've gotten a chance to meet you a couple of times, and I got to know you over Facebook really well. So you're hilarious and you crack me up. And
thank you.
what most of my listeners don't know is that you're actually my husband's friend that I met through. So, but really, whenever I become friends with my husband's friends, then I kind of take them away and they're my friends. So,
and yes, and we're birthday sisters too,
That's right. We have the same birthday.
That's right.
Same age and everything.
everything. It's crazy.
Crazy. So well, first remind everybody what you came on the podcast for.
So, in January of 2020, January 16th, actually, 2020, I became a non-directed or altruistic kidney donor. And what that means is I did not know who was going to receive my kidney, but I just felt that it was the right thing for me to do in my life where I was. It was a lot of personal and spiritual reflection that this was just the next thing for me. And so I contacted a local hospital, a transplant hospital here in San Antonio, Texas, where I live. And that was around October of 2019, and said, I'm interested in this. And they quickly took my information down and scheduled me for my first appointment for a screening appointment. There was a phone interview, of course, and then had the first appointment, then had another medical appointment to do some lab work and some more screening work, and then got the call back maybe 4 weeks later that I was a match for someone who was actually a hard to match person. And they reiterated that I did not have anyone that this was not directed. I didn't have anybody with intention that I was giving this to. This was just because, again, I felt that was the right thing to do. So I had to agree to not meet my recipient. I could not know who it was going to. And the better news was that not only was this a person who that I was going to help, but she was a part of, now I know it's a she was a part of a paired, she was open to doing a paired exchange. So with my donation, then a family member of hers who was willing to donate, but wasn't a match for her, was willing to donate to someone else. And that person who received her relative's kidney also had someone who was willing to donate, but they weren't a match for their family member. So they were willing to donate as long as their family member got a kidney. So we created a paired exchange of 5 people, which was, again, just a great feeling, and if things hadn't, if we hadn't matched, if it hadn't had gone into as many people, or weren't able to help as many people, it still would have been okay. Because what a great thing to know that there's still hope for humanity, that people want to help and do the right thing. And I just got to play a small part in that, which was fantastic.
Yeah. So how have you been over the last 3 years? You talked a little bit about the 1% chance of the complication that you had. So how's that
Yep.
been, and how have you been
So
for the past 3 years?
so let's talk about that. So overall great. I have
Yeah.
it's a great day, and every day is a great day. I will tell you that during the procedure, and this is something that you consent for, that you acknowledge that could happen, that there could be a complication. 99% of kidney donors leave the hospital in 24 to 48 hours with secondary to a laparoscopic procedure. So you just have the little trochanter holes where they do the procedure. I was that 1% though, where there was a major complication with some unknown vasculature. I ended up staying in the hospital for a week, and but recovered nicely. I did need to get a few blood transfusions. It was a little scary for a minute, but when I woke up, everything was fine. Even the doctors were amazed that, the next day I was walking around, everything was great. They couldn't quite believe it, but since then I've been good. I've been fine. In fact, 4 weeks after I was discharged, I ran a half marathon. I did a 10K on a Saturday and a half marathon on a Sunday, a back-to-back race weekend. So, I've run a dozen races since then. So no complications there. I did get the chance to meet my donor, or my recipient. And I did have COVID. I actually got COVID. I avoided it for almost 3 years. And over this last summer, I got COVID significantly, actually. And it was a little bit of a scary moment there because it did affect my one remaining kidney. But again, I recovered nicely from that. It was, just some fluids and a couple nights in the hospital just to make sure I could stay hydrated and back to normal. Other than that, I've had no issues. They did do from the initial surgery and the initial complication. I do have a 13-inch scar now on my abdomen where they had to actually, it was a laparoscopic procedure, convert to open. So they had to go in and actually open me up to finish the procedure. That caused a hernia. So I've had a hernia repair, no problems there. That's kind of a standard. I mean, people get hernia repairs, not that out of the ordinary. And sure enough, I was in and out in 24 hours, not a problem. So really, I have no complaints. I'm not on any medication for this. I don't take anything. I'm not on any kind of medical watch or anything like that. I'm not even followed by a nephrologist. I just see my regular family practice doctor. Life is good.
I had a hernia also from uh a abdominal surgery that I had pre-transplant.
Uh-huh.
And so I had the hernia repair, but mine was a little different because she had to open me up. And so the hernia repair was after transplant. And so
Okay.
she felt like
Yes.
she had to open me up to repair it because she was afraid that it wasn't going to last with the laparoscopic or something. I can't remember. But the hernia repair surgery was worse than the transplant surgery. It was like the most painful experience I ever had to go through.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I was only there in the hospital for 2 days with that, but it was much more intense, that hernia repair surgery. I mean, no complications. Everything worked out great. But people, even when I was in the hospital, were like, "Well, but you've donated a kidney." I'm like, "You don't understand. That was the easy part. That was
Right.
this is more of a challenge. I had to wear an abdominal binder and watch
Yeah.
how I sat up. Whereas after the kidney surgery, even with my complication, I was up walking around, encouraged to move. The more I could move, the better. But with this, it's much more of a guarded situation with my
Yeah.
hernia repair.
Yeah. Even to this day, like whenever I exercise, I still wear that belt over my stomach because I'm so afraid that the hernia is going to come back because I
Yeah.
don't ever want to go through that again. But anyway, I went off on a tangent there. But so, okay. So you're doing fantastic and that's great. And I'm glad that you recovered from COVID. So let's talk about you meeting your donor or your recipient because you got to meet them. And I haven't heard that story yet. And
Oh my
I was
gosh.
going to ask you the last time we saw each other a couple weeks ago, but I didn't want to ask you because I wanted to hear it firsthand on the podcast. So I can't wait to hear the story.
So this was, I can remember reaching out to you. I was so, this is something. So I will say something that I don't think people talk about a lot when you're a donor, a living donor, is that, at least with me, I have some anxiety. I worry about people, and I want to love on people. And I just had this, I was hoping I was helping somebody, and I just wanted to know, but you can't know. You have to really just resign and let that go to the process, right? You just have to
Yeah.
hope for the best. But I, especially then, because my donation was 16 January 2020, the pandemic got hot and heavy 2 months later.
Yeah.
I was just riddled with worry about my recipient. Is this, and I didn't know if it was a man or a woman at the time. Is this person okay? I hope you're being safe. I remember getting on my own Facebook page and doing a few announcements. Please wear a mask. Keep transplant patients safe.
Yes.
I was so worried, because somewhere in the city where I live is my recipient. And not just my kidney, but another person who has a family who's now had the second chance. And I was absolutely terrified that something was going to happen to this person, before they got to live out the rest of their potential. Um, so like I said, I lived with this worry for them, and I built up this excitement for the day that I would finally meet them. What's it going to be like? And I've heard stories of the people are just instant families, and things are great, but I didn't want to create a romantic idea in my head. But I at least wanted to lay eyes on this person and just know they were okay, and just to, just a handshake, maybe a hug, and just know that this is good, right? This is what the goodness is in the world. Um, and then as the day got closer, I got a phone call. This happened on a Friday, and I got a phone call, um, the week prior, saying from the transplant team, saying, "Hey, it's that time. The recipient is ready to meet. If you're willing to meet, are you willing to meet?" Yes, of course, of course. And I was so excited. I was, oh my gosh, what can I do? I'm so excited. Where's it gonna be? When's it gonna be? And I was just over the top. And then about 24 hours later, it kind of settled in with me. Wait a second. I'm going to meet the person who has a part of me. And what if they're not doing great? Maybe they're going to be angry at me. Maybe they're not going to like me at all. Maybe it's just going to be, well, you should have taken care of yourself just a little bit. I didn't know what I was walking into.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
terrified. And I thought, well, maybe, and I'm an emergency nurse. So sometimes my sense of humor is maybe just not appropriate. It's a survival skill. It's a coping mechanism. I thought, I'll dress up like a kidney and I'll jump out of a box. I don't know. I had all these crazy ideas about how I can like reveal myself. And I got some amazing advice from a very wise person that I'm talking to right now. And she said, just be yourself. Just show up. Just be yourself and show up and just be open to the process. That was just hard for me because, what if they don't like me? What if they don't like me? Because I maybe I'm weird. I probably am weird, So I was so terrified then that what is this? Have I accidentally on purpose built up this romantic idea of what this reveal is going to be like? And to make matters worse or better, it wasn't just my recipient I was meeting. The entire paired exchange was going to be there. So the person who received that person's family member's kidney, and then that recipient, and then that person who had somebody donate for them. And so everybody was there. Oh, and then let's add this to the mix too. Their families were there. Oh, and one more thing. The whole medical team was there. There was a room of about 50 people there watching what I kind of felt was a private, intimate moment,
Yeah.
that could lead to like shattering rejection or an abundance of acceptance. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was so nervous. So the day came and I even picked out a dress to wear and I made sure my hair was done and I even wore makeup and I hardly ever wear makeup, like never. So I was like, okay, I can do this. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. I got stuck in traffic. I ended up getting there late. The whole thing was held up because I couldn't get there on time. I was mortified. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm on my way. Cause they even called, the transplant team called and said, are you still coming? Is this still going to, are you okay? I'm fine. I'm just stuck in traffic. It was awful. So I get there and I'm pouring and dripping in sweat. It's because it's April. It's actually Donate Life Organization Awareness Day. Donate Life, red, excuse me,
Blue
blue,
and
green.
green day. Yeah.
And so I get there and everybody's waiting and people are clapping as I'm walking in. And I was looking around like, who's here? It's, oh, me. Oh my gosh. Oh, hello. Nice to meet you. Um, how are you doing? Nice to meet you, stranger. And you, it's hello. And do I wave? Do I sign things? I don't know what's happening. Right. So we get into this conference room and there are 10 of us sitting around a table and we have a box in front of us and and they do this introduction. The surgeons get up and talk, the transplant nurses get up and talk, and um, then they show a video of all of us with our backgrounds. Again, we don't know who. We're sitting in this room of people and we're sitting at this one table with people across, so it's got to be somebody at the table because they have boxes and I have a box. Okay, so they show this video and we kind of got to see each other before we knew how we were connected, which was fantastic. Um, and I got to see their lives before and after transplant, and I, got a little misty eyed, got a little wet in the eyes there, watching their lives and their families. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it now. And so then they said, "Okay, are you ready to meet?" And on the count of three, you can lift up your box. And we lifted up our box, and a balloon floated up, and then there was a name on this card, and then now we know who each other are because we saw the video. And then when I saw who my recipient was, it was just this, see, I'm emotional thinking about it. It was just this wonderful, full feeling. I just went over to her and gave her a hug, and she was crying, then I was crying, then her family was crying, then we were all crying. And then what really got me was when her see, I'm emotional just thinking about it. Her two grandchildren came up to me and said, "Thank you for giving us our grandma back." And
Oh,
I just thought, oh, because I'm really connected to my grandparents too. And I just
yeah.
thought, you know, and these were little boys. I mean, I want to say 7, 8, 9 years old. And I just
Yeah.
thought, you've got your grandma back. It's so much more life to live. And it was just a great feeling. And I met, like I said, her children, and come to find out, her son is actually a policeman in my neighborhood.
Wow.
who's been patrolling my neighborhood for years and I didn't even know it.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, I mean, it's just this crazy connection. Then her other son, who was her designated donor to another person in this paired exchange, he's a distance runner like I am, so we shared a lot with that. And then her sister-in-law, who her daughter-in-law, who is the wife of the police officer, works at the hospital where I've had my surgery. And so when I had my hernia repair, she stopped by to visit with me for a little while. So we haven't had a it's not this, we don't do family vacations together. We don't go over to each other's houses for holidays, but we're Facebook friends and we stay in touch. And we've exchanged numbers. So her family has reached out a few times, and it's just great to know that there's a community out there. And it wasn't just the person who received my kidney; it was the entire chain. And so we've talked about getting together, maybe this year, now that COVID's kind of subsiding a little bit, a little more under control. We want to keep
Yeah.
everyone safe. So we kind of stayed away from everybody for a while. But maybe this year, maybe even next year, maybe we'll get together for our picnic and, kind of have that reunion again. But that's how it went. It was everything I thought it could be. And the best advice was just to go and be yourself and be open to the process.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's so wonderful. That's got to be like the best feeling to know that her her grandchildren were there and they're so they're the whole I'm sure the whole family is just incredibly grateful. But whenever you have kids involved, that's so wonderful to hear
Oh, it
them.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then seeing so the person who received, if I'm saying this right, the person who received, no, so her son who donated to another person, he has young children. So he's able now to be with his family. And the person who donated on his behalf, who donated, he's able to be with his family. So just kind of seeing this whole chain, how it all worked out. Um, it's, it's just so, it's so rewarding. It's one of those, and nobody outside that room, I mean, and now, thousands of people who will listen to this, but nobody outside of that room would ever know us off the street. We don't wear a sign around our neck. We don't wear, t-shirts. I'm connected to this person. I gave it to you, and because of you, it's me. Because of me, it's you. But we know, and just being able to watch each other's lives as we all grow and as their family grows, and all the things she's still able to see and witness, it just feels good to know that it's good. It's
Yeah.
it's it's good.
Well,
It's
I
good to
think all
help.
living donors should just every day just put on a cape and wear a cape around, and then we would all know you guys are superheroes. So,
Oh my goodness.
so looking back now at all the anxiety that you had, I remember you telling me about how you were feeling, how you thought that maybe they won't like you, or like what you just said, like, they'll be mad at you or whatever. Like, do you kind of look back at that now and be like, what was I thinking? Of course not.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if I, putting all that on the shelf, I think I would have been able to enjoy it a little bit more. I was so scared walking in there. I took some nausea medicine. I thought I'm going to meet these people and throw up everywhere. I was that nervous, but that was such wasted emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't help myself. That's how I am. But
Yeah.
if I could give to anybody else, any other recipient or donor who's about to meet their family, be in that moment and just reveal yourself, because just the joy of seeing that person live their life, that's where my comfort comes from.
Yeah.
So, and maybe even if they hadn't have liked me, you know what, they're living their life and that's great. I mean, they're
Yeah.
able to, so it's not about liking a person or being like a person or fitting in with what they think you should be like. And not that I didn't, um, not that that was put on me,
Yeah.
but if that is your worry or concern, that that is not, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. That's,
Yeah.
of all the things in the world, that's not the thing to even concern yourself with.
Yeah, because it was crazy to me to hear you say something like that because on the other side of it, like I know that they were feeling the same exact thing. Like I don't feel that way. I haven't met my family yet, but I don't feel like they wouldn't like me, but I certainly wouldn't feel that they would be nervous to meet me. Of course, they're not living donor; they're a donor family. But if I had a living donor that I hadn't met, I wouldn't think that they would be nervous to meet me. I would be nervous to meet them because I would want to make them proud of me. I would want them to be like, "Hey, this is the right person. I'm glad I gave my kidney to her." Like, so it's crazy to hear somebody like you being nervous to meet somebody's life who or somebody whose life you saved. So I'm glad that it went well. I'm glad that you realized that, you know, there's no possible way that they could ever not like you.
Right. And all the, all the nonsense we have in the world this day, these days with politics and this and that and the other, none of it matters when
Yeah.
you're helping somebody. None of it
Yeah.
matters. I mean, I don't even know about that, and it doesn't matter, and they don't know that about me, and it doesn't matter. What matters is, are you a match? And can you help? And because that's what matters. That's what
Yeah,
matters.
for sure.
Yeah.
So that's great. I'm glad that you guys met, and I hope that you guys can see each other again soon. Now that
Yeah.
COVID's going away.
I'm sure it's going to work out. Like I said, the other recipients we're all in connection with each other. We just don't have each other on speed dial, but we are connected. And I would say all the complications and the ups and downs with that stuff in the beginning, um, it's all put to the side. It all that goes away when you can see and know and are reminded of the giving life to someone or being a part of someone's life. Um, I've had people ask me, even when I was getting my hernia repair done, I bet you regret it. Don't you regret it? Do you regret it? Because you wouldn't be here if you hadn't have done that. I said, "Yeah, not at all. Because I'm going to recover from this too. I
Yeah.
mean, I could have gotten a hernia from lifting a heavy box or something like that. It does,
Yeah,
things happen. Um, but when you do things with intention, that's what I think you get the most reward.
for sure. For sure. Well, I said it last time. I'll say it again that um, I think you're an incredible, amazing person. And if I had a cape for you, I would give it to you because I think that you're a superhero.
Oh,
And
thank
I think
you.
that you're the most wonderful person to be in our organ donation community. And it warms my heart that I know I get to know you. So thank you.
Well, you're most welcome. Most welcome. It's really opened up a lot of opportunities for me to do, so the opportunity to give back doesn't just stop with the organ donation. It's being able to share the story and
Yeah.
just encourage people to, and encourage, not pressure, but just encourage people to consider donation, whether it's a living donation or an afterlife donation. It's just such a great thing to I'm encouraging people to evaluate their opportunities, and if it's a right fit for them, fantastic. If it's not a right fit right now, please consider it for later, and have the conversation with your family. That's one
Yeah.
of my big messages, is just have that conversation. um, I, I I can't stress, if I had a platform that was a soapbox, that would be my soapbox, that'd be my message. Talk with your family about
Yeah.
what your intention is.
Absolutely. 100%. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time and coming on.
You're so welcome.
Thank
Anytime, friend, anytime.
All right. All
All
right.
right,
Cool.
girl. Hey, have a good night. Okay.
All right. You too. Thank you for listening to the Pre to Post Transplant Podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Facebook. Oh, and if you have not signed up to be an organ donor, please visit www.organdonor.gov and register today. You too can save lives.